That's a very heavy burden for one to carry. If you can imagine thinking that as you walk out your door on this Monday night, where these people all throughout the day have pondered this question. And when Monday night rolls around, these East Germans down in Leipzig have made their decision. They have decided that yes, it is worth dying for. Not the freedom just for ourselves, but for our children, for our children's children. They have decided that they are not going to be afraid. They are not going to turn back. That yes, we are going to make this revolution happen. And that Monday night down in Leipzig in 1989, you get a crowd of over 70,000 people in the streets of Leipzig. 70,000 people from all over the country, aware of these consequences no matter what, have driven down to Leipzig to take part in this revolution. Now, if you can imagine, this crowd is very large. They're going through the streets. They get to the middle of the city, and when they do, they're standing face to face with the East German army. Soldiers armed and ready for combat. Soldiers who have orders to wipe these people out. Everyone is waiting, thinking this is going to be a massacre. A lot more people are going to die than just 250. What is going to happen? And what happens next is an absolute miracle. Because from that crowd of 70,000 East Germans, you start to hear something. And what you're hearing is a chant. Those 70,000 East Germans have erupted to a very, very famous chant that goes, Wir sind das Volk, Wir sind das Volk, which translates into English as we are the people, we are the people. 70,000 bars shouting, we are the people, showing that they are not afraid, that they are willing to die for their freedom. Now, if you look at this scenario from the outside, you think about it, that definitely gives those soldiers the right to shoot these people. These soldiers say, oh, they got loud, they got rowdy, they got out of hand. We had to open fire to suppress the crowd. We had to wipe them out. Think about, that's going to happen. This is going to be the end. It's not the case. What happens is these soldiers standing there, armed and ready for combat, are hearing this chant of we are the people, Wir sind das Volk. And as they hear that, they begin to look into that crowd of 70,000 East Germans. And when they do you know what they see? They see familiar faces. They see friends, family, cousins, brothers, people they have known all of their life in that crowd. And they realize on this Monday night, they're not the Soviet soldiers from 1953. They are East German soldiers, which means they come from this very country. They come from the same towns and cities as these people. And they realize that their loyalties are not to Erich Honecker and this communist regime, but to the nation of East Germany and to these very people. And on this Monday night, these army soldiers disobey direct orders from the government, because each and every one of them puts their guns at their sides, don't fire a single shot, steps out of the streets, and lets this protest happen. Unbelievable. If you are a communist regime, one thing you must have to run your country is your army. Your army turns its back on you, you essentially have nothing. When news of this gets around the rest of the nation, protests are going off in every single city you can imagine because no one is afraid any longer. The army has turned its back on Erich Honecker. We are taking our country back. Leipzig, next few weeks, 70,000, then 120,000, then 320,000 people are protesting in that city. Finally, that protest hits the city of Berlin, and you have 650,000 people under that TV tower, 500,000 people here in Berlin chanting, Wir sind das Volk, we are the people. Now, 2 days after 500,000 people protest here in Berlin, Erich Honecker, East German ruler, he decides to retire on health grounds, got back problems, like, oh, I can't do this anymore, steps out of office, leaving them in a mess. East German government brings in a new guy. The guy they bring in is a guy by the name of Egon Krenz. Egon Krenz, also Communist Party member, they trust this guy. Egon Krenz comes into office, knowing he's trying to save a sinking ship, decides to do the one thing that Erich Honecker was unwilling to do, and that is to give the people exactly what they want. Now, in order to decide how he's going to do it, what they're going to say, he hosts 3 days worth of East German government meetings. 3 days, emergency meetings. Everyone must be there. Because after these 3 days, later that night, Friday night, they're going to have the second ever international press conference in East German history. Second ever. East Germany is 40 years old, and this is only the second time they've spoken to the international press, meaning this is huge. Now, those 2 days worth of meetings, what Egon Krenz and his members decide is they're going to allow East Germans the right to travel into West Germany anytime they want. Something they haven't been allowed to do since 1952, we are now going to allow them to do. If they have the right passports, right document, enough money in the bank, their commitments in East Germany are tied up, we like them enough, they've been loyal to the government, then yeah, sure, yeah, no problem. You can walk right into the West, it's not even an issue. Essentially meaning the only people that are going to meet these requirements are loyal East Germans. People in government jobs, people in high places, people who will go into the West, take a look around and go, oh, that's pretty nice, I'm going to go back home and come back to the East. That 500,000 in Berlin, that 320,000 in Leipzig, oh yeah, those people, oh yeah. You know what? You guys stop protesting, get off the streets, come apply for passports, we'll get you paperwork as soon as possible. Just stop this protest business, come to the offices and apply for passports. Now getting a passport in East Germany, one, in 1989 is not going to be easy. Two, it could take 5, 10, 15 years to obtain a passport. They weren't going to say that. They're going to say, oh yeah, come in, we'll get it to you as soon as possible, no problem. Essentially tying these people up with paperwork, and in the process, they're going to come up with a better idea to take their country back, to restore communist rule over this nation. It's such a brilliant idea, they type it all up. 3 pages worth of documents, get it typed up, all ready to go. Nice bullet points, all looking real good, real easy to read. Then they start handing it out to everybody in that meeting. Now everyone was supposed to be at that meeting, but as they're handing it out, they realized that one guy within the East German government was not at day 1, day 2, or day 3 of any of those meetings. He just wasn't around. Now the guy that was missing is a guy named Günther Schabowski, or the Big Schabowski as we call him today. Now the reason the Big Schabowski is so important, Big Schabowski is the man delivering the international press conference later that night. And with him not being at day 1, day 2, day 3, he got no clue what's going on. No idea at all. To this day, nobody knows where he was on those 3 days. No clue. Was he on holiday? Who the hell knows? Can't find him. This is before cell phones. They can't get a hold of him. They're calling people's houses like, have you seen him? Have you seen him? Nobody knows where he's at. Panic has broken out. Chaos. East German government. Where the hell is Schabowski? They're trying to find him. They don't know what's happened to him. Press conference getting closer and closer and closer. What are we going to do if he doesn't show up? We can't just give this to somebody else. He's the guy. It's going to look weird. All of a sudden, 6 p.m. is getting closer. 5:45 p.m. rolls around. And all of a sudden, at that press conference, in walks Mr. Schabowski. Like he's known about all along. He just didn't feel like going to meetings. Comes in, briefcase in his hand, comb over all fixed, suit and tie on. He's looking pretty damn sharp. Walks in like, hey, sorry I'm a little bit late. You all ready to do this? Secretary's like, man, seriously, where have you been? You know what, actually, you know what, I don't even care. Schabowski, I've got a very important document for the meeting that you missed this morning. Details some very important stuff that you missed. You really need to read it. In fact, do not walk onto this stage without reading this document. You take a look at this right here now. Mr. Schabowski, read it. Schabowski, very prideful, arrogant guy. It's like, oh yeah, no problem. Takes from the secretary, says, oh, thank you, I really appreciate this. I'll take a look at this close to, never. All right, cool. Puts it in his briefcase, seals it up, doesn't ask any more questions, walks onto the stage. Schabowski goes on that stage in front of the whole world and delivers 52 minutes of the most boring press conference you have heard in your life. What he has prepared is talks about ball bearing production in East Germany. Ooh, fascinating. Crops, cows, and chickens, and farming, and sewing production. Yeah, it's so exciting that half the journalists in the crowd have either fallen asleep in their chairs or they've left to get drunk at the bar next door. Now the guys that left to get drunk, yeah, they're more than likely going to be fired the next day for missing one of the biggest mistakes in political history. Because what happens next? Schabowski finishes everything he's prepared, decides, all right, they got a few questions, I got an answer sheet, they got a question sheet, this should go real smooth and organized. Great. Till he calls on the first guy in that conference room, got his hand up. That happens to be an Italian journalist in the back of the room. He calls on that guy and says, yes, sir, what is your question? First question is, Mr. Schabowski, what's East Germany going to do about the protests in your country? Happening in Leipzig and Berlin, pretty much chaos all over the place. East Germany have some way of handling such things. Now that definitely wasn't on the question sheet, which means Schabowski doesn't have an answer. He's got to try to figure this out. He's been asked a question from the entire world, and as he looks at his answer sheet, he's got something about cows and chickens and sewing and farming. That really doesn't help. He begins to panic, like, just a minute. Tries to ask the guy on the right, guy on the left. They're like, I don't know, man, but hey, you got this. Hey, you got it, man. You're by yourself. He's all alone trying to figure it out. All of a sudden, bing, light bulb goes off. He remembers. Secretary handed him a sheet of paper when he walked into this conference. Secretary said it was pretty damn important. That question is damn important. The answer must be on the sheet of paper. They just didn't tell me it was the answer sheet. This is great. Taking out his briefcase, never had read it before in his life. Takes it out, sits down on the podium. Starts to do next is read it out loud. And the first thing he says in response to that guy's question is this. Yes, it appears all travel restrictions between East and West Germany shall be lifted, and all travel documents shall be issued without delay. Shit.